Everything said, so thank you everyone, thank you all nerds of Zurich for coming to listen to me. I'm going to present you the findings I made in the last couple of months in my research, which was focusing on a question of gender asymmetries in reality and fiction. I know this sounds weird, I will explain you what I really do. So why do I do all this? I'm a computational social scientist, so if this works, no, a second. Yeah, whatever, I press here. So yeah, I study humans. I study connections between humans and the relation to each other. And in general, I do this with data from the internet. You know, the internet is really providing us with so large amounts of data on human interaction, which is kind of my window to the reality. You know, I analyze real humans in real interaction in some sort of virtual world. And the stories we tell to each other and all these kind of realities we create online might not be exactly the same as the ones that we tell to each other in other media, for example in movies. My question was, how are movies related to the reality and if they are representative of what we do in our real life? And this question came to me because one of my friends came to me and said like, yes, I watched this movie and there was this schoolgirl. And then when he said that, the picture that came to my mind instantly was schoolgirl like this. You know, when he was talking about the schoolgirl at the movie, I had a particular picture that was not like a schoolgirl in the real world, you know. For some reason, I was expecting something completely different from a movie than from the reality. So I was wondering, what is this kind of layer of fictions that we create to attract our interest, like in movies? And how does this relate to the fictions we create also on the internet? Because there are some fictions. One of them is captured very well in the rule 29 of the internet that says, in the internet all girls are men and all kids are FBI agents. It does happen, I know this by experience. We also lie to each other online basically, and we follow certain patterns that we can predict. So what I did is that I applied some theory that is called social script theory. So it's like we're following a script in our real life, in which we're following certain norms, like you wait for someone else to talk, or you are trying to basically follow rules that allow you to predict other people. So I would show you like a little experiment how these scripts happen in real world. So first, look at the chicken. Yeah? The chicken is important, you have to focus on it. I'm going to ask you a question, and you have to answer. Yeah? The question is, how do you call a black guy selling drugs? How? Anyone? Yeah. A pharmacist. Yeah. I think I heard some restrictive voters. The point is that here you were expecting me to make a racist joke, which didn't happen because you can call a black guy selling drugs a pharmacist. And these kind of social scripts, this was something very short, just a joke, are revealing these kind of subconscious and subjective biases that we have. There are some sort of traces of our past behavior that might reveal certain patterns that we follow. So the first thing that I did is that I wanted to apply this to movies. So to do that, I used a measure that is called the Bechdel test, which is applied to movies. It was invented by a cartoonist, and it states that a movie passes the test if it contains at least two female characters who talk to each other about something besides a man. So it seems quite a trivial rule, you know, you expect that at least there should be two women. So, for example, in the latest movie, The Avengers, it has like three very important male characters with a name, and they do a lot of stuff, and they never talk to each other. It doesn't pass the Bechdel test. So there's another movie that is Midnight in Paris, you know, it's Woody Allen, it also has very nice female characters, and it passes the test because there's a woman talking to her mother about a chair for 5 seconds. The Bechdel test is just an anecdote, basically. When you apply it to a movie, you're just simply trying to guess something or to understand something about the director or the art or whatever. So what I tried is to give an answer to this and say, like, is this really representative? Is telling us something about gender and our fictions about gender? So what I did is that I created basically a computational extension of the Bechdel test. So I took scripts from hundreds of movies, then I processed the dialogues, and I found who was talking to whom, and what were they saying in the dialogue, if they were mentioning males or females in the dialogue. Then I found the genders of the characters by looking for the actor genders in IMDb. And then I processed this in a dialogue, so I created a network for each movie, and in this network I could find males and females and their discussions. So then from this data I could compute a score of male independence, basically, so how men are likely to talk to each other not about a woman, and how women are likely to talk to each other about something that is not a man. So it's not a binary rule, now it's like a score that can have a lot of values. So one movie, typical one, looks like this. So this is Star Wars, A New Hope, and in red you have male characters, and in blue you have female characters, and their connections, their color depends to which genders they mention. So So if you compute these two scores of male and female interaction, it has a male score of 16% and a female score of 0%. So it contains some female characters, but they never talk to each other either. So well, they talk about something like, Wookiee, I don't know. So this kind of explains a little bit why all my friends that love Star Wars look like this. This guy is... So the previous talk was really inspiring. You know, I would like to make a movie about that, but I wouldn't let George Lucas be directing it, because he would send all men to Mars, all women to Venus, and all nerds to the Death Star or something. Really, if you have your favorite fantasy as something in which two women cannot even talk to each other, there's some problem. So I was thinking, is this actually representative? Is this happening in our real life, that we have these kind of biases? So well, I took a lot of movies and I measured the score for many of them, for like 500. And what I found is that here is the frequency of movies for the value of the female and the male score. So in red you have the histogram of male scores, and in blue the histogram of female scores. So it is much easier to find movies with relatively high male score than with any female score. So in general there is actually empirical evidence that there's a strong bias towards male activity in Hollywood movies. And then I thought, okay, is this actually representative again? And then I went to Twitter and I found that there are like lots of tweets, so I downloaded 3 million of them from 170,000 users, and this is a typical dialogue, you know, I love Justin Bieber, I can't see Bieber. So I found all these dialogues between the people, and then I processed the profiles. So I had a movie that was like 170,000 characters in Twitter talking to each other. So then I computed again the male and the female score as if it was a very large movie, and actually subsections of it like they were little movies. And then I could compare this with the fictional world of movies. So if you put movies in this space of female score in the vertical axis and male score in the horizontal one, the movies that pass the test are kind of biased towards the female score. Yeah, they tend to have some positive female representation, while movies that don't pass the test are more towards the male score and they kind of ignore the female one. So guess where was Twitter? Twitter actually was there. It's closer to movies that do not pass the test. It's actually more biased towards male than those movies. And when I found this, I couldn't believe it. I was expecting that it was going to be kind of even and it cannot be so biased. Actually, I published this in a paper that by chance appeared on April 1st. A journalist called me and asked, is this a joke? I have the data, you can look at it, I'm not kidding. And you can look at individual profiles and get this feeling. For example, if you look at Uli Mauer's profile, it's like there. Really, there's some sorts of bias. So I thought, this cannot be so disencouraging. I have all this data, I need to learn why and in which reasons, in which situations this happens to have this bias. So I have a lot of demographic information from the users, and I could tell things like where they live, or sometimes their age, or the relationship they have to other users. So I found that fathers had a stronger male score. So somehow, because you have a wife and so on, you don't want to talk about women so much. There's also stronger in the northern states in the US than in the southern, so the weather might do something. And also the female score was weaker for US states with higher income, so somehow money makes women mention men more often. And a female score is weaker for rural users, also wherever, depending where you live, is kind of bias in this. The good thing is that there's hope. So for example, for students, the scores were completely equal. There was no gender difference existing in Twitter for students, so this is something that we should be proud of actually. We have not really developed these kind of biases as other people. And also these scores were more or less equal for private discussions in MySpace. So some people gave us their discussions and we could analyze them, and also there was no bias. So it's something that happens because of public exposure on Twitter, because of what you're talking about. And this is making me think that actually Twitter is not like an artificial world in which you can define yourself and everybody will listen to you regardless of your gender or where you come from. It's actually some sort of amplifier of some terrible biases that happen in the real world, you know, and we cannot fetishize Twitter or online communities as a solution for certain things. We have to take action and find solutions in the real life, you know. So if you like this, I hope that you will apply for some job in my chair, you know. You should join us, we can give you student jobs, we have some money for this. So it's really nice, you will only not study internet, but also other types of data, economic networks, and real world. And just simply thanks a lot for listening to me.